Welcome to AARP Illinois' virtual event. It's so wonderful to have you with us. AARP is on a mission to connect with individuals across various communities, especially those aged 50 and above. We're here to listen, understand, and address the unique needs of you and your community as we age. Our goal is to enrich your experience by expanding our local activities, providing opportunities for you to discover and engage with all that life has to offer right here in your own community and virtually. As we journey through today's event, we invite you to consider joining our dedicated team of AARP volunteers. It's a chance to make a meaningful impact and help us better serve those 50 plus across the nation. Connect with us and be a part of this vibrant movement toward positive change. Welcome, and let's make this event both fun and transformative.
Hey, Hampton.
Hey, Nicole, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for participating in this powerful discussion today.
Absolutely. I wouldn't be nowhere else but here. So, hey, I'm super excited about it.
You want to introduce yourself and then I'll go next?
Absolutely. So, my name is Hampton Simmons. I am the owner of the Simmons Allstate agency located in South Holland, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. I've been in the insurance industry since 1995, as a matter of fact, off and on, but a total of 15 years in the industry. And looking forward to having an in-depth conversation today about final planning and how you can incorporate life insurance into those plans as well.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm Nicole Pacini. I live in Minneapolis. I am from Chicago, born there. So I'm very familiar with where you live. My mom lives very close to you. But I'm an author. I'm an artist. I am just a real creative person who enjoys creating items that will help people thrive. I created the Obituary Journal that we're going to talk about today, just based on some of my own personal background and things like that. So I want to share some of that with you all today. We're going to have a conversation. We have some questions that we have for one another, and then we're just going to just jump right into the conversation. That sound good?
Sounds like a plan to me. Let's rock and roll.
All right. So I think you go first.
All right. So with that being said, the question that was proposed to me, from your experience, how does having life insurance play a critical role in life planning? So, when it comes to, death, those are some of the things that, are inevitable in life. And to help prepare for those situations, you really need a plan in place, because nobody wants to plan for the unthinkable. But when you do, there's nothing worse than not having a plan at all. So to make the grieving process a lot easier for our loved ones in the event of death, it's definitely good to have life insurance in place to make sure that you're taking care of those final expenses and making sure that your loved ones can maintain and sustain the quality of life that they're currently accustomed to. There are several purposes and reasons that we buy life insurance, such as income replacement, because if your significant other or spouse passes away, that income is gone with them. So life insurance can be that bridge to help fill that gap where their income has been lost due to death. Educational expenses, making sure that your children, if you're a young married couple, have kids and have aspirations of your kids going to college, you want to plan to make sure that if in the event of an untimely death, their education expenses are taken care of as well. Also supplementing retirement income and leaving a legacy. So there are a multitude of different usage of life insurance. When we think about it, we talk about final expenses, but there are also additional usage of life insurance as well. So we really want to make sure that our dreams that we have for our spouses, our families, are able to be realized in the event of an untimely death. So that's really the main purpose, some of the main purposes for life insurance, and just making sure we have that plan and execute that plan accordingly.
I love that you use the word legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's super important. And that's one of the reasons why I created the book that we're going to be talking about today. So I wrote a journal called Out of Service, Self-written Obituary Journal, which kind of scares a lot of people when they read it. And they read the title, they say, oh, I have to write my own obituary. And my answer to that is yes. In an essence, yes, we want you to write your own obituary, but in a thoughtful, reflective manner. So the book was created based off of a circumstance that I had surrounding a friend that passed away. I have mine too. So it was surrounded by a friend who passed away. And it just really got me to thinking about my life and how I want my funeral to look like, my homegoing service. Like, what do I really want that to look like? What do I want? What don't I want? So I have conversations with my children often about what to do and what not to do. And they always know not to put my face on a t-shirt. I just don't want that, right? And so I would rather tell my life story in my own way versus having someone else to tell that story for me. So when I think about my legacy, there are certain things that I would like to share with my friends and family that they might not know about me. So the Out of Service Self-written Obituary Journal is like the foundation for reflection. It's really a discussion starter. A lot of people don't, and you probably know this, Hampton. Most people, not most people, but there's a lot of people that are in our community that don't want to talk about what's going to happen when they die. And then it's left for like you said, for the families to try to pick all those pieces up, try to figure out where documents are. Did you have life insurance? Did you not have life insurance? Where's the paperwork? Where do I find these things? You can do all that through this journal by mapping it out, requesting certain things to be done in a certain way so that your family can grieve without trying to figure out all these things in the process. It's a very difficult time. I do not want my children going through any of that. Right. So can you talk a little bit about, you said you've been in life insurance for a very long time. Mm-hmm. What are some of the misconceptions that you see surrounding getting life insurance, and how does that work within your clientele?
Well, before I jump into that, you brought up some great pointers. So with the Out of Service Journal, as I was going through it, I'm thinking about, envisioning my, my funeral per se, and all the funny stories that can be talked about, some of the memories shared with family members as well, just to bring, a spirit of celebration to that final process of saying goodbye to me. So, I can dictate the narrative with Out of Service, making sure that, no one is left out, which can be, cause issues amongst family members, making sure that, my life story is accurately communicated to everyone that came to my homegoing celebration, because, with death, when situations occur, people pass away, you only have a short window of time in order to plan for a ceremony or a homegoing service or whatever the case may be. So you really need to have things organized. You may have a week at the most in order to put everything together. So the Out of Service Journal will definitely help keep things organized, as opposed to going through shoe boxes and safe deposit boxes, finding out where the policies are, who the family members are. You have everything in one centralized location in order to accurately portray your life and also to make sure that the business of taking care of your final expenses are taken care of as well. So, life insurance is going to play a key role in all of that due to the fact that when you go to the funeral home or the grave or the cemetery where you have to purchase plots, those are typically cash only businesses. You need cash on hand or write a check or a money order. Some places do not take credit cards. So therefore, life insurance is critical. You can assign the policy over to the funeral home or the cemetery to make sure that they take care of those final expenses out of the policies that you have. So to your point, the question that you asked about the misconceptions of life insurance, people tend to kick that can down the road, especially when they're young. Well, I can get that at a later date, or my job has it. But if you're a 20, 25-year-old individual, you may change jobs, which means that you no longer have that insurance, and situations may occur where you may pass away during that time and you're without insurance. So 50% of all Americans do not have life insurance, which is a critical component of making sure that our family members are taken care of, and you're not leaving that extra burden on them to, bury you, for one, also take care of your debt. If you have kids that are young, making sure that their college are taken care of as well, and then paying for your home that you live in, because you really want to maintain that quality of living that you currently have. Your family members maintain that quality of living after you're gone. So life insurance is the easiest way to build wealth, generational wealth, and maintain that standard of living. So, to all of my clients, I, have a conversation to make sure that we understand what your goals and aspirations are, making sure the mortgage is paid off once you're passed away, making sure the kids' college education is paid for, making sure that your credit cards and any other debt that you may have is also taken care of as well. And we can formulate a program whereas all of that will be taken care of, whereas your survivors will not have to deal with that. Because in a situation where someone passes away, the last thing you want to think about is money. You want to grieve, in a proper way without grieving about, how am I going to pay for this? And life insurance is the easiest way to overcome that obstacle.
Oh, this is the reason why no one wants to talk about it. It feels heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It feels heavy. It feels responsible. You have to be very responsible to have these sorts of conversations.
Right.
Especially when you don't see the end near it. You're like, I'm still young. I have my whole life ahead of me. We're over 5 decades. Years old. So
right.
we've lived at least half of our lives already. And it's just really time to have that conversation. Just listening to you, I didn't realize I've never planned a funeral. I've never written an obituary. I've always attended, funeral services, memorial services. I did not know that, you couldn't, pull out your credit card and pay for some of these things. So that is
not all of them,
but
yes.
that is huge. That is a huge statement that you made. I had no idea that was a thing. And so even if you had the ability, like if you had line of credit on your credit card that you could use, I've never thought of that. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, think about it though. If you were able to utilize your credit card, you're going to have to pay interest on top of that principal that you had to pay. So with life insurance, you wouldn't have to do that. That money is free and clear of any interest, and you wouldn't have to worry about that. So, to your point, I have gone through situations. I've lost a spouse. I've lost my father. I've lost 2 sets of in-laws. So I've had to go through the planning process of funerals and taking care of final expenses. And, there was insurance available to take care of those, but they were not consolidated in one place, or everything was organized where you could easily pull out of service and know exactly what the final wishes were for the loved one that passed away. And from my own personal experience as well, back in 2010, my first wife, she was a physician. She came home one night late with pain in her shoulder, took her to the hospital. They discovered she had breast cancer. 4 months later, not 4 years, but 4 months later, she passed away. I have two daughters. They were 4 and 1 at the time. So yes, we had insurance to take care of the final expenses and, some of the other major debt that we had. But as far as the dreams and goals and aspirations that we had a plan in place that was sitting on top of the file cabinet, a nice insurance proposal that we did not act upon. And, unfortunately, that didn't take care of all of the dreams. So we were able to, maintain the quality of living that we currently had, previously had, but, some of the overall goals were not taken care of. So I'm a true component for life insurance, and I've experienced it firsthand. And, I just want to make sure that I'm able to communicate and, make sure that, people are aware of things that come about in the event of an untimely death.
Thank you for sharing that. Speaking of communication, I communicate through writing. I communicate through writing. And so journaling is really important when I think about how I want people to view me, because it's my most personal space. When I'm writing, I'm just by myself. It's like a sacred space. So you're getting the raw, the real, the juicy stuff, I should say. But you mentioned earlier about having a conversation, and those conversations, I said, can be heavy. The journal is not designed to be heavy. It's really designed to be a conversation starter. And so it may not lead to, I reached out to Hampton or I reached out to someone else to talk about life insurance, but it may just be, I opened up the conversation with my family so that they now know what I expect once I pass away. They now know that I don't have life insurance, but now we can open up that conversation to talk about what does that look like. And not just for me, but for everyone in the family. So this is not just a personal thing. This is a family event. This is a family journaling event is what I like to call it. I really want people to sit down with their family members and really just have a conversation and share memories. This is a legacy building book where you can write down all sorts of things that you did when you were younger that you want to share, some of your accomplishments that you want to share. Like you mentioned earlier, it's a celebration of your life, and you want to be able to map that out the way that you need to map it out. So for me, journaling is so important. It's very therapeutic. And like I said earlier, well, not earlier, but just a few moments ago, it's just a way to put your thoughts down on paper. When we're speaking to each other, sometimes we're not all the way authentic. We're not all the way vulnerable. But when you're in your own space, in your own time, you're like the most vulnerable and the most reflective. There's a space in the journal that talks about, and I have it tabbed here, recall a time when you laughed so hard it became a cherished moment. And that's when you were saying earlier, like, I want people to remember, the silly stuff that I did, the fun things that I did. So that's the time to document that in that space.
Right.
And there's also sections in the journal for like do's and don'ts. I mentioned I don't want my face, on a t-shirt. I don't want the doves behind me with the staircase to heaven. I personally don't like that, but there's some people that do. And I also want my obituary to be a book. I want it to be a book full of photos and memories of myself, my family, my friends. I want it to be in full color. So those are the things that I want. So I know that I'll leave, enough money to my family so they can make that happen. But I need to at least get it down on paper so that they'll know, and keep it updated as well, like over the years. You need to. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of why you should update your documents and your information and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because the 20-year-old Hampton is totally different than the 54-year-old Hampton. So we go through life experiences, and life starts to lifing, and things change over time. Careers change, children grow up, you pay off your mortgage. So it's always good to update your out of service journal, making sure that all of your details are updated in the journal, and also speaking with your representative regarding your insurances as well. Because if you're a young couple buying a home and raising kids, once you get 50 years old, you may not have a mortgage, or you may not have kids in school. I started late, so I still have kids in school, but definitely it's always good to recalibrate, revisit your end goals, to make sure that everything is up to date, make sure that all of the needs that you have are taken care of. Because when you're younger, you have a need for more life insurance, but over time it typically decreases because the mortgage is paid off, the kids are gone off, but you still want to leave that legacy, making sure that you have the right amount of coverage to make those dreams come true. And there are life benefits for life insurance as well, such as investing, infinite banking systems, and things of that nature. But the key thing that I tell my clients, the best life insurance is a life insurance policy that's in place when you pass away, because you can create, very creative type of policies. You hear about index universal lives, variable products, things of that nature. But if you can't afford it, or can't sustain it over a period of time, it's no good at the end if it's not enforced. So GoFundMe is not a plan or a life insurance policy. So you have to be consistent and planful to make sure that something is enforced, to make sure that your loved ones are taken care of. And the journal, I think, is outstanding, because it's one place where you can put everything in writing. Everyone knows where it is. It's not in a plastic bin. It's not in a shoebox, as I talked about. It's not at the top of the closet. It's not in a safety deposit box where nobody can find the key. So you want to make sure that everything is documented. And one thing, Nicole, that I want to mention as well, once you complete your journal, take pictures of it and make a digital copy or a digital image of it and share it with your loved ones. Because say if, devil's advocate, the house catches on fire and the journal is burned up, make a digital image of everything that you've documented to ensure that your loved ones have your final wishes in place. So, point of action to you, you may want to do a digital version as well. But I think this is an amazing tool. I'm going to say it's a tool that everyone needs to use. I've shared it with my mother and my sister and my clients, to make sure that they are aware that there is a resource where you can utilize to make sure that your thoughts, your dreams, your the way you envision your final services to look, we have a tool for that. And out of service is that journal to make your final wishes come true. And I'm a true component of it. In addition to that, I know I'm all over the place, but so when putting the information in the journal, make sure that you're listing the names of the insurance companies that you have the life insurance with, the face value, the policy number, also the telephone numbers of the companies in which you have the policies with, whereas your loved ones can easily contact them once, if in the event you pass away. So this will make it a lot easier for them to make contact and have a quick turnaround of the payouts for the proceeds.
How difficult is it if you do not have this information, like how difficult is it for someone to find your policy if you have one and they don't know it?
Well, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. So, I mean, there has to be some key indicator stating that you had a policy with, company XYZ, because there's not a centralized database stating that there's an insurance policy, floating, out in space somewhere. So it's, very difficult to discover where, if or where the policy is located. Now, one thing to consider as well, a lot of insurance companies, they sell their policies or sell their book of business to other companies, which makes, make it another level. There's another level of difficulty, whereas it will be, more difficult to find out where that policy is located. But if you have a baseline of, when the policy was taken out, the original company, they can go back through the archives to figure out, what company currently owns that particular policy.
Okay, that's important. See, these are things that I did not know. So if they were to sell your policy, do they notify you?
They do notify you, but
okay.
most people don't open mail anymore.
Yeah, and so they wouldn't even know to update anything. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, for example, Allstate, a couple of years ago, we sold all of our proprietary life insurance policies to Blackstone Capital. So, they did send out a notification that everything is transferred over to Blackstone, but people that have policies, that had policy with Allstate, they can still call the original company, which is Allstate, and they will direct you to Blackstone Capital to gather information regarding your policy. So it's critical that you utilize the journal to make sure that you document who the original company was. And once you contact that company, they'll point you in the right direction.
Okay. This is why these conversations are important. I did not know that. I know they do that with mortgage loans and things like that. I did not know they did that in life insurance policy. So thank you for sharing that part. This is good. This is really good. Very important information. What is your goal for people who do not have life insurance? Like where do you recommend they start? Like what is that conversation like? If you're just having an informal conversation with someone and they say, man, I don't have life insurance. It costs too much, or whatever the misconceptions are. What is your thoughts around that, and what are you saying to those individuals?
Well, yeah, my conversation is, finding out what's most important to them. What are your goals and aspirations? Do you have a family? Do you have a mortgage? If in the event you were to pass away, how would you want your family to, live moving forward? Because would you want them to sell the house and move into an apartment, or, decrease their standard of living because your income, has been taken away? It's not a sales tactic, but, you have to pull on those heartstrings to, make it personal to them, because, I've lived it. And so I'm very passionate about it. And, I just want to make sure that people are prepared for the inevitable. They always say two things are certain in life, taxes and death, and
Taxes and death. I've heard that all my life.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I didn't understand it, I still heard it.
Right. You never think that, a 9-month-old baby will pass away, a 4-year-old baby dying of cancer. But, things happen. And, there are, statistics and probability and actuary tables stating that, the life expectancy is, such and such, but, there may be a car accident that may occur. And, are you prepared for that? Me personally, I would not want my family not to sustain the same lifestyle that they're accustomed to now. I would want to leave something for my children as well. I wouldn't want to be, embarrass the family by them having to do a GoFundMe to raise money to put me in the ground. You have cost of the funeral, you have cost of purchasing a plot at the cemetery. They have to open the vault and close it. There are a lot of costs associated with it. When I, first started selling insurance in '95 in rural Alabama, I would go door to door and I would see, these elderly people with, $500 policies or $1,000 policies. So getting back to your point, as far as updating and maintaining proper amounts of insurance, we have inflation. Prices rise over time. We're facing hyperinflation right now. So my job is to make sure that people are aware of the changes, the costs, and making sure that we put together a program that fits their budget to make sure that at least the final expenses are taken care of. And then, the other goals that you have in place, there's money to take care of that. We'll find a program for it as well. The old saying is, when you're making soup, you have to use what's in the refrigerator to make that soup. I can't give you an extravagant plan and you can't afford it. So we have to make sure that we put together the right program for your budget. So planning, across the board, as far as final wishes, making sure that life insurance is in place, is a, team effort. And we have to make sure that our family members are involved, make sure that we have consistently put into a program that's going to make sure that our family, is not grieving because of money.
Again, sounds heavy. Sounds heavy. I have a question for you. How many life insurance policies can a person have?
Oh, it's unlimited.
Unlimited.
But the thing about it, the older you get, you may have health issues, like myself, you may, have a little excess weight to you. So, rates are based upon age, height and weight, health conditions. So, my suggestion is, especially, the AARP age, which we're in, making sure that we're communicating to our kids the importance of it. Get as much as you can when you're young, because you can guarantee your insurability at a lower age. And if you want to say, if you bought term insurance, you can convert some of that to a more permanent plan. But get as much as you can the younger you are, whereas you will lock in the price at a lower rate. And, that's the best way to satisfy. But, oftentimes people, our age still have a need for insurance. There are plans available, all the way up to 85 or, in some cases even older. But, my suggestion is, the younger you are, do an assessment to determine what the cost would be and, see how much coverage you can afford and, get as much as you can.
Which is another conversation starter with your family.
Right.
Do you encourage young people to use the journal as well with their family?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think so too. I don't know if my children are necessary. I talk to them about this all the time. My oldest, they're 34, 35 are the oldest. And then I have twin girls that are 25, 24, turning 25. We have these conversations, and they sometimes shy away from those conversations. But I do want to sit down and have a family time where we can sit and really just have conversations about our journey in life, just our journey in life. I think it makes it more palatable to then start having the deeper conversations about,
Mhm.
The end of life planning. Especially when you're so young.
Mhm.
If you're in your 20s and 30s, like I never thought about dying or even planning a funeral in my 20s or 30s.
But you can capture those special memories,
You can
especially
capture
your
those
kids.
special memories, right?
As a
Which,
34-year-old, there may be some things that they've done, that mama doesn't know about, but
I'm sure, I'm sure, I'm sure, I'm sure,
there's,
I'm sure.
once, at their celebration, those things can
Yeah,
come out. So, I mean, it's good to capture everything, accomplishments that, we may not, remember that,
yes,
we can put down on paper. And, I suggest, everyone has this journal. And, like you said, it's a work in progress. It's a living document, making
it
sure that
is.
everything is, written down and processed. And, if you have to put a line through it, if it's not relevant anymore, do that. But definitely, it's a living journal and, can be utilized the rest of your life.
Thank you. I want to share some of the book that I have in the back of the book. It's called the Do's and Don'ts chapter. I really like this part because it's the part that I'm always talking about. I don't want this, I don't want that, and I do want this, and I do want that. But I listed them out. There are reasons why these things are important. So one is clear communication of your wishes, which we talked about. Reducing ambiguity. Now, it says death can be challenging and emotional, but by providing a clear list, you can reduce ambiguity and offer guidance to your loved ones during a difficult time period. We talked about that earlier. Respecting your personal values. We talk about maybe being cremated versus having a burial. Those are also conversations that you want to have ahead of time so that your family members know. Empowering them to understand your values and your beliefs, honoring your individuality, and alleviating decision making stress, all the things that we talked about, and encouraging positive celebration. That's what you mentioned earlier. Promoting transparency and facilitating closure. I thought that was a good one. So, knowing these things ahead of time gives you the ability to provide closure. You're not guessing. You're not wondering, what would mom want? What would my daughter want? What would this person want? You already know the answer to that because they told you. And then expressing compassion. This journal is for communication. It's for people to write down, to reflect, um, and like you said, if something changes, he says, scratch it out, start over. And it's just like you said, it's a working document. We're all a work in progress in our daily lives anyway. So this is also going to be a work in progress as well. So I want to ask you, are there any other resources beyond just starting, having the conversation, utilizing the out of service journal? Are there any other resources that you would recommend for somebody to just kind of tap into
Yeah,
to further
absolutely.
explore this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. So AARP, of course, they have a plethora of resources for individuals needing assistance in organizing their final wishes and thoughts. But I think that you've done an excellent job of bringing, not only the insurance portion together, but just the final wishes. And one thing that you just left off, in my opinion, this journal is a stress reliever,
Yes.
a tremendous stress reliever, because you have that very small window between the time of death to plan a funeral and, making sure that you're executing on those final wishes and, making sure that celebration comes to life. But this out of service journal, is going to cover all bases, making sure that, your wishes are communicated to the masses, making sure that, your sister or brother do not have to, dig through high school alumni books to find out where you went to school, who your best friend was, your sisters, your brothers.
Yes. Yes.
This is a tremendous stress reliever, whereas you take all of that out of the way.
Yeah.
The only thing they would need to focus on is, making sure that you're looking good in the casket or, on the memorial pictures that you have. And, these things are already taken care of. So, kudos to you and this tremendous resource. It's a journal, but it's a resource. It's a living document. Is something that you can definitely use for a multitude of things to make sure that the stress is taken off of the family members and they can focus on, just making sure they're executing on your wishes, and their final celebration of life is a grandiose experience. So typically, back to your question, AARP has tremendous resources. Insurance companies that you deal with, they have resources as well. Allstate, which I work for, we have a complete dedicated team that will help, guide you through, various aspects of life insurance and other needs that you may have as well. But a great starting point is the out of service journal, to make sure that you can capture your final wishes the way you want it, and you can dictate and control the narrative moving forward. So I just truly appreciate you bringing this to life. And as I stated, I'm sharing with my clients to make sure that they're utilizing this and relieving that stress. We want to keep it 120/80 at all times.
Woo. One of the things I wanted to say, and sometimes I forget how amazing this journal is. And when I look at it, I'm very proud. So thank you so much. But there's when I read obituaries, there's a standard of what, your obituary how it reads. And it's usually, when you were born, who you were born to, and then it goes into how old were you when you got baptized, if you were baptized, what school you went to, where you work, and then a little bit of other stuff. Mm-hmm. That's it. And I was like, I've lived a great life, and I'm gonna need it to have more information than just that. Okay. And so that was another reason that sparked me to create this journal. But it also, in the beginning of it, it has spaces for you to write your birth details, because you may want to share this. This is something that you pass down for generations. You don't have to be worried. Okay, who was Grandma Nicole? Mm-hmm. Who's Grandma Nicole? She's right here. I can literally leave this to my grandkids. And there's a section for your family members. You write their names down. There's a section for your good friends, which I think is very important. Mm-hmm. Your family doesn't always know who your good friends are. They see you speaking to certain people, or they see you having associations with certain people. That doesn't necessarily mean that they need to be, or you want them to be at your funeral. So you got to lay this stuff out on the line, and don't leave it for them to try to determine who is coming and who is not. I find that to be I love it. It's like, you want to just, pay attention to who comes to your funeral. You won't even be here. Like, yes, I do. Yes, I want certain people there, certain people maybe not. But it's the beauty of this being creative. And then at the end of the journal, there's a space for you to take all the information that you've written down. And maybe if you're a writer like me, you may want to craft it and then keep crafting it over time as you continue to develop, as you continue to grow, do more things, create more memories in your life. You can still add that to your obituary. So that's why it's called a self-written obituary. Otherwise, you're just leaving the pieces together. yeah, family can write it, but it'll be more creative if you write it yourself.
Yeah, the good thing about it, you're leaving no stone left unturned. So yeah, I think it's a tremendous way to express yourself, and you're controlling it. You're controlling that narrative, and yeah, I think it's just an outstanding tool, and definitely everyone needs to utilize it because it's your last hurrah.
It's the last hurrah.
Yeah, you're going out with a bang, and
Yes. And what music do you want to hear? Like what's the soundtrack? Like there's a page in there for that. Like what music like signifies your life? Like
right.
what songs do you want to hear?
Yeah,
Well, not you.
think people will truly appreciate it, and they're in that environment, and it's just bringing their life back to life, and that final celebration. That's the way I envision it. So yeah, I totally recommend it to everyone. And
And it's funny because earlier today I was talking about how dark it seems to have these conversations, but this doesn't feel dark to me. This feels very empowering. It feels very uplifting, and it feels very special to me because I love, like I said earlier, I love journaling. Journaling is my jam, and it is very therapeutic. I don't know why I can't speak either. It's very therapeutic for me. So I wanted to say thank you, Hampton. Thank you, AARP, for allowing us to host this conversation today. I found it extremely valuable. And I would love to get together with you again, Hampton, and talk about some of these other things because I didn't know. Maybe we could do some more like round table, virtual type conversations to really enhance the narrative here.
yeah, absolutely. We're just scraping the tip of the iceberg, and so much more, and we can take deeper dives and do more in-depth conversations because it's so much to that we don't know, and really needs to be communicated to the masses, and which will help them out. And we always want to keep it 120/80.
20/8. I'm working on that right now. I'm working on
Hey, we're gonna get you there. So thank you, Nicole. Thank you, AARP, for providing this platform for us, and definitely love to make it happen again.
All right. Thank you so much. Take care.
Hey, you too. Take care.